I think as women, we're used to having certain things that we just assume are normal. In my initial diagnosis and treatment, my oncologist was very nice. I had never had an oncologist before. And as I was starting to get information while I was running it by other people in my family who are experts in the medical field, everything seemed good. And I wanted to start immediately since I was diagnosed stage 4 right away. And when I started the treatment, I realized my first day of chemo that there were certain things that other people had told me you could do or prepare that my oncologist really hadn't discussed with me. And I realized that I needed to really advocate for myself in a way to make sure, not just complaining, not just all these things are valid, but making sure to do it in a way to make sure she's on my team. And I literally wrote her an email from the chemo chair about, I forget now even what it was, about what the specific piece was, but it was something that wasn't ready for me at that chemo. And it wasn't life or death. It didn't affect the whole treatment, but it would have provided more comfort for me going into it. And I emailed her basically explaining, like, I'm here to fight for my life and I'm going to kick ass at all these things. And I need to know that you feel the same. Like, you're on my team to feel that way. And it was after that that, of course, she said, yeah, I am, and all of that. But it made me really dig deeper to not only advocate for myself, but take the energy, which is hard when you're going through something like this, but to enlist who I needed to help me to figure out, was I at the right place? And I 100% was not. And I know that. And I think that that decision saved my life. My life, ultimately, I think I'm going to live longer because of it. And I've gotten to really live and have quality of life because of it. And my oncologist now, I can't rave about more. I mean, she just understands me. She knows me as a person, not just as a patient. And when decisions get made, because none of us have all the answers, you need to be with someone who's on your team along with it. And circling back to, this is cancer and stakes are a bit higher than me in my sales career, but it's all the same because there are a lot of scenarios that seem like, how can we get through this? How can we hit these numbers or that? But when you are a part of something with people who want to figure out all that we can do to do it, you will, if it's there. And I've found that those solutions usually surface when you have the right people on your team. My uncle-in-law, who is a former breast cancer surgeon, he called me and he was like, the treatment that you're on that we originally reviewed was the standard of care, like the most recent. He's like, but I've been attending more calls and conference things since your diagnosis, and it's actually not the very most recent standard of care. And this wasn't a change in how my outcome would have been necessarily. It's just I was on one extra chemo drug called carboplatin that is much more toxic and causes a lot more nausea and other things going through it. That is no longer standard of care for stage 4 because I don't have a curative kind of cancer. So in earlier stages, what I was on made total sense. And when I had my first call with my first oncologist, I said, like a lot of people might, I want to be as aggressive as possible. Like, whatever we have to do, I'm going to fight this. But I'm saying that as someone who just found out they have stage 4 breast cancer and has a 1-year-old at home and all these things. I'm not saying that like I understand the options. And so when I did go to her with that information, her response was like, well, you said you want to be as aggressive as you can. And it's like, it's your job to educate me. I haven't had a mastectomy that's not considered standard of care anymore for metastatic, but some people do because for them, that's like what they really feel is right for them. And some doctors will do it or not. But it's like there are scenarios where, yes, maybe the feeling of the patient matters, but why would you not explain to me both pieces? My third round of chemo that we dropped the carboplatin, and I was on the other 3 combinations of chemo drugs that were in my cocktail of sorts. And that's when I knew for sure I had to change oncologists. But because I was in an HMO, I couldn't leave the hospital I was at. So I ended up getting a recommendation to another oncologist at a different location that was a little bit further away. I really liked her. She was way more up to speed. So it really wasn't like the overall hospital that was not up to speed. It was really the specific doctor's view and maybe how she listens and advises patients, which worked more for me. And once I did that, I I also set out to find out like who is the absolute best, like, and how do I get in with her? And that's what I ended up doing. And that's why I'm at UCLA now for that reason. And what I learned from that was that as I found that, I hadn't been able to change my insurance yet because it was mid-year. And when I was able to get a second opinion from her, she explained to me that she was like, I can still advise all of your care. Like I paid out of pocket to go see her, which was, a few $100s is more expensive than a regular visit. But by doing that, it unlocked this access to now I could message her in my chart. She could direct what care I was getting. And then when it was time to change insurance, I did because I really wanted to be in the UCLA system and with her. But I really would have never thought that. I think a lot of times we assume that if something's not covered by insurance, it's just unattainable. And that's true if it were like my chemo meds and scans, those would have, made us bankrupt, of course.
Right.
But the actual advice of the doctor and then getting all of my chemo up until being able to switch and all of my scans done where I was covered made it very accessible. And so that's something I really try to make sure people know because I never would have known that. Maybe one thing that I think just aligns with the whole troublemaker piece is I say a lot that I have crazy ideas. And it's the kind of thing where I don't actually think they're crazy. Like I wrote a book last year. I never thought I'd write a book. That sounds crazy, right? But I knew going into it that I had the plan to make it happen. I booked a one-way ticket the week after I graduated from college and moved to LA without a job. That sounds crazy, but I've been here 16 years and I knew I'd figure it out, or if not, I'd fly home. And there's a lot of scenarios like that where I think that we project or receive other people's projections onto us of what the standards are. And I think we're all different in where our comfort zone is, and not to let other people's influence our ability to be the crazy troublemakers that we want to be.